unauthorized to fire at will.
Well, looks like I don't know what's going on. We're having a little bit of a delay. So if you can hear me, that's great. If you can't hear me, you just get to stare at my frozen face right there on the screen. So yeah, I don't. If you can hear me, put a 1 in the chat. Justin's off screen. Justin, if you can hear me, can you like nod, lift your finger? Okay, good. All right, 5x5, everybody. I'm getting a 5x5. We throwing out that strange military jargon. You're going to get the FBI watching, and that's the last thing that Mr. Mayor needs is the FBI watching. Especially like if the Department of Homeland Security is paying attention to this, we could end up in trouble. Next thing you know, Kristi Noem's showing up in Spring Valley. Anyway, welcome to another episode of Mayoral Meanderings here on Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. MBRR Media, folks. That's what we are officially now. And by we, I mean me. It's me. It is all me and my channel supporters. And in speaking of channel supporters, I just want to thank all of my subscribers. By the way, we've grown immensely over the last couple of months. We're well on our way to 5K, which, you know, for a lot of you who pay attention to YouTube, 5K is not a big amount of subscribers, but it's big for me. It's a big amount of subscribers for me. So I'm really thankful. And we picked up a few channel members, and I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for everything that everybody does by way of channel memberships. And if you like what we do here, if you appreciate what I do, especially conversational topics like what we're doing here today with Mr. Mayor, Justin, and you want to help me be able to keep this going, expenses have gone up, by the way. Membership, or not memberships, but monthly subscriptions for things like SubscribeStar, or not SubscribeStar, but StreamYard have gone up. So you can pick support down below. There's this little thing that says join. You can hit that join button, and you can pick a level of support to be able to just give monthly. There's a entry level, and if you pick the highest level support, you will get credited on every episode as a show producer. I know that excites many of you. Everybody wants to be credited as being associated with me. That's like people live for that. I know it's pretty exciting to have, you know, me and your, oh, thanks. Right out of the gate, Just Jen comes in with a $2 super chat. You know what, Jen, that actually is very helpful. And I know that means a lot coming from you. So thank you for that, Jen. I really appreciate it. And hi to everybody in the chat. If I don't pay attention to the chat, don't take it personal. One thing, if you are a local and you are watching this live and you have a question for the mayor, please go ahead and ask. I will try and catch that, but please identify that you're a local and you're watching. So yeah, big shout out channel our show producers. I've got my Anonymous, who is local to me, and she's been extremely helpful supporting the work and the content that I do. And IMAP from over on SubscribeStar, which is another place where you can go to support the work that I do, is SubscribeStar. So if you don't like to give money through Google, YouTube, by the way, which is what you know, YouTube is Google. You can certainly go through SubscribeStar. Find me over there at Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. So we've done 2 of these already, where we've had the mayor on to talk about the previous town halls. And you guys know that I do try to make it to every single city council meeting, in as much as it's feasibly possible. Not even every council member can get to every council meeting. So there are times where I can't make it either. But we'll discuss something that City Council has done to make it easier for everybody to make it to those meetings coming up here in just a minute. But make sure you're hitting that like button on your way in, and that you are sharing this out, especially locally. We really do want people here in the Spring Valley area, business owners, residents of Spring Valley. We do want them to be able to watch and listen to what the mayor has to say. And this is part of my Think Local, Act Local initiative. I really want people to get involved, to be involved and I want them to do it at the local level. And even though this may not be applicable to you personally where you are right now, wherever you're living, it is applicable to you in the sense that you need to get out and get involved. You need to be able to sit down and talk to your mayor, no matter how big your town is or isn't. You need to be able to sit down, talk to your mayor and council members. And that starts by getting to know them. And one of the ways you get to know them is by going to city council meetings. And here in the metropolis of Spring Valley, by the way, because Spring Valley is, the last I checked, still the largest city in Fillmore County. And that's saying a lot, folks. We are a massive metro area in Fillmore County. We have one stoplight, I think, in the entire county. Not in Spring Valley. I think we have one stoplight in the entire county that I can think of. And I think that might be just south of the Olmsted County, Fillmore County line in Chatfield. Other than that, I can't think of where we have another one. So we are a major metro area. And unlike many other counties in the state of Minnesota, Fillmore County has no lakes. We are a lakeless county. So that's hard to serve as mayor in a county with no lakes in the land of 10,000 lakes. So without any further ado, just so everybody knows, I delay like this to build notifications going out. We're going to add Mr. Mayor to this conversation. And just so you guys know, I don't call him Mr. Mayor for real. He's just Justin. So he's already laughing at me. So you get no respect. I'm not calling you Mr. Mayor, even in meetings, just so you know. And
I don't
say it. I say it to be sarcastic.
I don't laugh because I'm making fun. I laugh because I still am not used to that.
Being called Mr. Mayor or me picking on you?
Well, being called that or actually being mayor. I'm just a guy.
Right? Yeah. So we haven't done a mayoral meandering for a few months now, obviously, because partially we do, the town hall meetings once every quarter. And the last two that we had were closer to being back to back. But with the third one, there was a little bit of a stretch, and then you were busy. You've had a lot of things going on around town, and in your personal life. And so here we are for another episode of Mayoral Meanderings to talk about the last town hall. And it was a 1 hour on the nose meeting, and we had to work pretty hard to stretch it to an hour. People were chomping at the bit to leave, and you just kept yelling at them, telling them no one's allowed to leave because you have that kind of power, correct?
Well, we did lock the doors, so I didn't expect anyone to leave. But
yes, even the fire exits. That's a joke, folks. There was no locking of fire exits that you're aware of.
No, and people are free to come and go as they please. But the whole idea of the town hall is to allow, not even to allow, that's the wrong word, but to give the residents a platform to speak their mind. And so, if nobody has anything to say, we could shut it down early, but
then someone shows up at someone shows up at 7:55 and wants to know where you were.
Right. And so I purposely planned for an hour and try to start on time, let it run for an hour. And if we sit there staring at each other, it's awkward, but that's, I want to give people the opportunity to speak.
Like now.
Yeah.
It's awkward.
Yeah.
No. So the last meeting was not terribly exciting. We didn't the last town hall, and I don't say that like there should be people chanting violent war chants or anything during a town hall meeting, but there wasn't the rush of people to speak this time as much as last time, and it almost felt a little coming from my perspective, not for the content, because obviously I don't stream the town halls for the excitement, and I don't stream the city council meetings for the excitement. My philosophy behind it. It's to be able to help people who can't make it to the meetings to be able to have at least a place where they can listen. But it's almost disappointing, because I was actually really excited after the first meeting and the second meeting, because people really seemed to be excited and taking interest in what was going on, and they were very excited that we were having town halls again for the first time in over 30 years. And even some of the people who came to express their thankfulness and excitement about that have dropped off and not come back. So I was kind of like, interesting.
Well, and I think maybe, I don't know the reason, but it's possible that it's a two-part reason in my eyes. The first is we didn't have a topic. It was an open forum. You could,
Right.
there was no focus on any specific one topic. And so that maybe wasn't as exciting, because they had nothing that they wanted to bring up or bring forward. The other thing is, maybe they have not seen any results from the prior two town halls. And what's the point of attending another one if nothing's been done with the first two? So,
well, I'm glad that one, I want to say in your defense, you had topics for the first two meetings, but even in the describing in your opening comments what the topics were, people were not always staying on topic in
Right.
those first couple of meetings, which there again is fine.
Yeah.
You're not running it in an authoritarian way, so
It's their
but
meeting. So
yeah,
whatever you have to say, I mean, we can go off topic. It makes no difference to me.
yeah. I do want to bring up some feedback that I have received, and I know that we had a local resident who brought this up in the last council meeting as well, that they love the town halls, but they would like to hear more from the people who are there, and we have to be careful so that people understand here locally, and even those watching, that the town halls are not technically in an official capacity setting, but that actually lends itself to what this person was requesting, which is, can we have some more interaction during the town halls? And I actually think that's a really good point. And I would, Justin, I'd like to, if I could compel you to consider interactions. If you look at other town halls that take place, whether it be congressional members, Republican or Democrat or whoever, and even larger metro council areas where they have town halls with a select number, a limited number of people, because we are trying to avoid quorum issues in open meeting laws, especially here in Minnesota. You will see a little bit more give and take, back and forth in conversation, and in asking questions and answering questions. And you've done, you've touched on it a little bit. You've asked some clarifying questions, but you've been hesitant, and I say that in a positive light. You've been hesitant to want to say too much, because I know you're trying to avoid the appearance of making decisions for the city outside of a official city council meeting venue. And I would encourage you that you can have interactions and back and forth at town halls with your constituents, which obviously everybody who comes to those meetings is a constituent. Even if it's just business owners, by the way, and so people understand that not everybody who everybody who owns a business in Spring Valley is technically a constituent, in the sense that they're not allowed to vote in Spring Valley. So I think a town hall is a great place for, like, out of town business owners who are, small, let's use the euphemism, mom and pop business owners who don't technically live within the confines of the city. I think a town hall meeting is a great place for them to come and be able to ask questions and have interaction. And I think you would help yourself, and even help the people in town who come, to be able to have a little bit more interaction. during those meetings. What are your thoughts on that? Have you given that any thought, or?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
That was a really long way of me saying talk more, Justin.
Yeah, so absolutely. And I think that's where we're headed. As you mentioned, it's been decades since anything like this has happened. So we need to get it started again, get it off the ground, and then head that direction. I'm not opposed to it. We just need to make sure we get it going, and people are comfortable with that. I myself probably talk too much and say too much, so I don't have an issue with that. But I do want to.
I don't think that's. I honestly, having watched those back and even being there while they're happening, I really don't think that's a problem. So I'm not going to let you. You're not getting off the hook on that one. You don't get to say you could talk too much. That's
No. Okay, so let me clarify. In general, in my life, I talk too much.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely.
In those meetings, again, that is for them to speak. So I don't want to take up their time by talking too much. This is their meeting. I want to step back and just listen.
Sure. But part of being a good listener is formulating questions to what you're hearing. And I know you know that. And so that's not, Mr. Old Man telling you, Mr. Much younger than me man. Like do what I would say, but I think you actually would find yourself probably getting a lot more interaction during the meetings, and maybe even getting more people to meetings if they knew that you and whoever, so we've got another one that'll be coming up here pretty soon to end out the year for the fourth quarter. I don't, do you have a date set for that yet, by the way?
No, and of course, we're going to be running into the holidays, so I want to be careful because I screwed up the last one being on Wednesdays on Broadway, and so I want to be careful of when we schedule it. But yes,
Are you implying that some people would choose to be downtown at Wednesdays on Broadway with mixed drinks and brew that readily available and would choose to not come to a very exciting town hall meeting? Is that what
I would just assume they would rather have fun than to sit there for an hour. I don't know. I could be wrong. But no, I believe that's where we're headed, and likely after this next one, because I would like to have each council member with me for the town halls at least once before we start changing sort of the format of the meeting. But I believe that's where we're headed. And actually, a point you made, I'm going to change the subject real quick, about business owners. I have been thinking about that for the last couple of months. I almost want to set up a separate sort of semi-private town hall for business owners. What do you need? Where do you want to go? What are we going to do here in the future? So, it's certainly open to the public, but with the focus on business owners and even people who are managing businesses that they may not own. So something I've been
where they're operating in an official capacity representing the people who own the business. This is what you're referring to.
Yeah.
That makes sense to a degree. I would also encourage business owners who have things that they want to talk about to actually come to a town hall as well. Because we do see some of them show up for city council meetings, which obviously those are a little bit more limited. It's not like you're having just here's a city council meeting just for business owners. That would be, there'd be all sorts of problems with that. But I think you would see an uptick in interest for sure if people knew that they were going to get some back and forth, some interaction. So like, I'll give you an example. Just a week ago today, I did what, going back to the roots of the channel, I did one of my notorious TC walk-in talks, and I went to the No Kings protest, without a vest on. And by vest, I mean a protective vest, which was probably foolish on my part, knowing that I'm known by some of the people who would take part in No Kings. So I went and did a walk and talk at the No Kings event last week. And one of the biggest gripes that the No Kings people had was, where's Congressman Brad Finstead? And they pointed out he's had no in-person town halls, none. I think there have been some attempts at online town halls, which, I appreciate that some people can't make it out to events, but when you're a representative, when you're a congressman, and in this case, in the first congressional district in Minnesota, not doing any town halls where people can actually interact with you, no matter what their viewpoints might be, I think is very detrimental to the future of your political career. And I'm not saying that about you because you're there and doing it, but I do think it does draw people in when they know that they're elected servants, whether you're mayor or council member at the local level, are definitely going to want to be there, invested in that conversation, invested in that interpersonal communication and interacting with you during those times, especially if they know ahead of time that, or even at the beginning from the outset of the meeting, look, we're not making decisions, and we will take what we talk about here back to the rest of the council. And I do know that the other council members will watch the town hall meetings and even watch this to some degree or another for differing reasons to see what people are saying, because you can only take so many notes when you're talking to people. Just
Right.
it's hard to convey how people are actually feeling. So I wanted to say too, before I open the floor to you specifically, and then as you say what your thoughts were about the last meeting, I wanted to thank you and the council for hearing one of my requests, and I know other people have requested it as well. But I wanted to thank you guys, very much for bumping up the start time of the city council meetings for a few months. And I know you made the joke in the last council meeting that it was so late, for you, old man, that maybe you started so late in the evening you were too tired to get your words out straight. So,
But not only that, but my eyes were crossed. I'm going to have to start wearing my glasses. I don't want to do that.
oh no, you have to wear glasses. Everybody knows that people that wear glasses are stupid and can't speak clearly.
Well, they could probably at least read straight.
Oh, so I think that it shows that there's an interest on the part of you and the council to at least hear what people are saying, that, look, I'm interested in being there, but I just can't be, part of a meeting. I can't show up for public comments if I can't get there before the meeting starts. And so I think that really helps. And I know it made it, much easier for me to show up, be able to get set up and start streaming the meeting without having to rush home, try to get everything put together and get down to, and I'm only 2 blocks from City Hall. I could literally step outside right now and look at the steps of City Hall from my front yard. So I just wanted you and the council to know that it is much appreciated on my end. So to everybody in chat, once again, thank you for being here. Skipper from Vet Nation is here, and Skipper, you're not allowed to type in chat until you super chat or add memberships to my channel, Skipper. That's just a rule for Skipper anytime that he shows up. So Skipper, you know the rules. Do not break the rules, Skipper. Skipper's my co-host over at Veteran Nation, along with Kahanu from America. I can't. AVA, we call him.
I was going to say, geez, you are.
No, Skipper knows.
No, but I've heard that from a handful of people. I want to attend. I can't be there by 6. I work in Rochester. I work elsewhere. By the time I get home, it's 6:15, 6:30, and so I appreciate that. I've been in that position before, and my hope is that people will attend, because I think that council will. It's a 6-month trial. So after 6 months, if nobody's showing up, I think they will likely go back to the 6 o'clock time. So I would encourage people.
Can we see? This is Skipper. at least the Marine can still follow orders. So, good job, Skipper. Good boy. You get a biscuit later. The definition of nobody showing up. So like I'm as long as it's at 6:30, I'm always going to be there. So I will be your somebody if there is nobody else. So just so you're aware, I will be the somebody, which might be more of a reason to get you guys to start the meetings at 5:30 instead of 6:30. So
and I don't know if you were there the previous was it August meeting, or even July. I mean, we had a fairly good number of people. It was just
I
this
was there for
last
August because that's when you made the decision. No,
Oh,
September was when you made the decision to change the meeting. Yeah, there we go.
so we were about half the numbers once we changed it to 6:30. So we're losing people at this point. So
Well,
I would encourage.
Correlation is not causation, Justin.
No. I'm just saying, for those of you who were interested in attending but could not because of the time, please show up. So
Yes.
that is if that's something we need to permanently change, we have a good reason to do so. Not that you're not a good reason, but
no, I totally understand what
the
you're
community.
saying. I'm just the media in this situation. I might live in town, but at this point, I'm just the media, and who cares? That's fine. Oh,
Yeah.
this is why we only do this once a quarter, folks.
Yeah.
So did you have any? We've made promises that we are not going to stretch these mayoral meanderings out too long, because once we start meandering too much, we can get into dangerous territory. But did you have any takeaways, even though participation was a little lower at the last town hall? Were there any things that stood out in your mind? I had a few things that stood out in mind that I would certainly love to discuss with you, but I want to hear, like if you had any, and there again, talking points, not from, I have to make sure I hit these because they're scripted, but anything that you took away from the last meeting other than numbers were a little down and everybody was very reticent to stand up and speak.
I think probably the biggest one was, and I've heard this before, so this isn't a new comment by any means, but the empty storefronts downtown. Yes, that bothers me, but as a whole in our community, we need to be working on attracting businesses to Spring Valley, regardless of the location. And so
Agreed.
That is something that I really want to stress and work towards in the coming months or the coming year. I've only got 14 months to go before the next election, and who knows what's going to happen there. So
Gosh, is that all it is? Because it feels like it's so much longer.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. So I want to do the most good that I can in the time that I have. Whether I'm reelected or not, or whether I run again or not, it's what I'm going to do with the time that I have that I've been given. So that is a huge focus, is bringing business to town, and there's a multitude of reasons to do that and to focus on that. So it's in my mind a high priority.
I think this is probably a really good place for me to bring up, one of my, and this will be me beating the same drum that I beat on a regular basis for most people, which is, I really appreciate that the fact that people are coming to the town halls, coming to city council meetings, but especially at town halls, and they're bringing up, hey, we've got so many, empty storefronts, or we could do so much more to encourage business to come to town, or whatever that business might be. We've had people that have brought up the idea of, like, let's reach out to Amazon, and I know that your personal perspective is like Amazon might be great as long as they actually commit and then stick around, but we all know that Amazon is notorious for committing, then abandoning some of those commitments, sometimes well after they've employed people. they'll just close up shop. But I think there's a place for the city's involvement in the growth of a small municipal, especially in a place like Fillmore County. There's a place for a city to be involved, but I don't personally, from my socio-cultural, socio-political perspective, I don't think it's the job or the place of the city council, city government, to be solely responsible for growing the city. I think that onus or that responsibility needs to fall squarely or directly on the shoulders of the people of the community. And that's one of the things that I asked last time, which was, hey folks, what are you personally doing to encourage people to open businesses here? Well, how are you talking, word of mouth type interactions? How are you encouraging people to come to town? One, to visit the town, to tour the town, and to look at opening businesses here. And when you talk to people from places like Lanesboro, no, granted, Lanesboro to some degree has a little bit of a leg up over Spring Valley because of its direct access to the bike trail, which does certainly encourage people to come to town during biking season, especially. But people are coming to town and opening businesses there, one, because of the tourism aspect, recreational aspect, but also because people are like, hey, we have a great town here and there's lots of places for you to open your business. And we can guarantee you, without having to go to the city, that you're going to be able to bring in income. And let's be honest, when you open a business, you're there to make money. You're not there because the city's promised to back you up. You're there to make money. And that's been one of my, shall we say, one area where I want to compel people to think through that, which is, how much do you really want the city involved in growing business? Because that can get very costly for the taxpayers, which is, I don't think it's something that people think about when they expressly say to the city, what are you guys as the government of the city doing to grow business, to grow our town? And I think that's a dangerous precedence to begin to set. I don't know. What do you have thoughts on the way people request this stuff?
So I don't necessarily disagree with your viewpoint, but what I would say is right now, and I don't know if anybody even knows this, we have 5 industrial lots ready to build on. They're not listed anywhere. They're not available for sale. You just have to stumble on Spring Valley, go to City Hall and ask, hey, do you have any industrial lots? So to further my point, we need to be listing those so they're available for anyone anywhere to see that they're available and what they can do to build on it.
Dive into that a little bit more. So when you say we, you mean the city itself. The city government needs to be listing those. Why aren't they listed? Is there a particular...
There's been no plan put in place to do so.
So you mean there hasn't been no? Is it a lack of plan or a lack of conversation around a plan? It's not something that's coming up that people want to talk about, do you think? Or
no, I don't think they're against talking about it. I think what it is just nobody has taken the action to make it happen, and we're only now beginning to have that discussion and to get them to the point where they can be listed. Because we've got to figure out what people can and can't do on those lots, and all the regulations. But once we do that, we're going to get them listed and hopefully sold fairly quickly.
But you've already said they are zoned industrial.
Yeah. Yes, correct.
So are you talking, by looking at potentially listing them, would something, and there again, I know you can't speak on the record in an official capacity, but are you saying that if somebody showed interest in one of those lots, that there would be openness to discussing whether or not it's going to be, there might be some rezoning to do as it regards those lots, and consider like going from industrial to commercial industrial or commercial or something like that, or are those kind of conversations on the table?
Yeah, for example, we sold a lot recently to Rubin Mechanical. They're building a new building, and half of it is going to be storage, which is against what the industrial side of it is. That's more the commercial, because you're going to have people renting these storage units. So they had to come in and ask for loss of words. They went to planning and zoning, one for their building alone to see if what they had in the plan was appropriate for that lot, but then also to get approval for that additional side, which is going to be storage. And so that once planning and zoning approved that, then it came to council, and so there's things you can do probably right away, but if there's sort of outside of the norm, then it has to go through that process of planning and zoning and then council and all of that.
Okay, but there is a willingness to have those conversations.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right. Well, and I think that's good for people to be able to know, because a town like Spring Valley is only going to be able to really support an industrial business to a certain capacity. You're not talking about a population base that is large enough to support too much industrial. And so when you've got so many just strictly industrial spots open, it's tough for people to go, oh yeah, let's build a small factory here and then hope that we can completely staff it with people from town. That just isn't something that's going to happen. Especially when people can drive not too far and make Rochester level wages, and probably to the net positive if we're being honest. So it's going to take a lot. Go ahead.
I've never had a manufacturing plant or anything like that, but I assume it makes more sense to be right on Interstate 90 or Highway 52, something like that, where you're going to get on the road and move your product fast. And we're talking about 20 miles, so it's not a big deal. But
so what I hear you saying is we're going to work on rebuilding the railroad through Spring Valley, is what you're saying.
I wouldn't be opposed. No, I work in Rochester occasionally, and I hear the trains going through, and I'm like, that's wow, loud.
Yeah, that is definitely something, isn't it? That is
so
definitely.
It would be something to consider. I doubt it would ever happen, though.
I want to nuance this, which I'm not known for nuancing very often. So 2 meetings ago, the city council voted to set the tax levy at a 7% increase over the last levy, which was it last year? Or was it? Yeah, it was last year. So that's a maximum, not a minimum. That's a maximum of 7%, with the city council being able to choose to lower it.
Yeah.
If they need or if they can, which, and let's be honest, we're talking about government. It's not going to fall below 7%. This is me saying this. This is not the mayor saying this. It's not Justin saying this. But let's just be honest. Choosing to go to the maximum means that's what's going to happen. It's going to stay at that 7%.
And basically is, if we just if we said we could go up to 7%, but let's set it at 2, we're stuck with 2. So you have to say 7%, and then you can always go down to 2, but you can't go up from 2. So do I like that? No. Are there things that we need to do? Things we need to prepare for in the future? Yeah, unfortunately. So I don't know where it'll land. We can come back. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm there again. I'm not saying that as a critique of any particular member of the council. I'm just saying it's just a reality that when a city council, when a body of government chooses to that was a different administration and a different different time in the history of the U.S. When a city council in particular chooses to set its maximum percentage increase for a tax levy, there's a 98% chance it's not dropping below that, even though they can.
Sure.
At the same time, there are people who are, saying things and like, when are you going to fix my roads? When are you going to fix sewer and water and whatnot? And then at the same time, also being upset that levies are going up. When you're looking at a maximum of 7% levy increase, that is really going, people are going to hear this and think that I'm actually advocating for a massive tax increase, which is what I'm not doing. What I believe is going to make it very difficult, because people do want to grow the community. They want to grow the town. And by grow, they don't mean, the confines of the city limits. They mean they want to see more businesses. They want to see more restaurants. They want to see more shops. People aren't necessarily looking for a massive influx of industry or, massive commercial endeavors. They're talking about, smaller things like restaurants, smaller commercial, venues. The city's hands are really tied on how much they can contribute to something like that when they're only raising the tax levy by 7% and still have responsibilities like upgrading streets, sidewalks, sewer and water. How much do you think the city can do to encourage, and what can the city do to encourage business growth, especially at that commercial and retail level in town?
Yeah. I mean, it's a delicate balance, because you don't want to jack the taxes up for the people who are living here and already suffering, paying, maybe up to the 7%. But then does that encourage people, businesses, industry to move to town? Maybe not. So we need to slowly work towards a place where business wants to come in, but the residents aren't the ones, it's not totally on their back, and they're not suffering more because we want more business to come in. It all needs to go hand in hand.
A lot of people will talk about encouraging businesses to come into town and, take part in things like what amounts to, hey, you're a business, we're going to give you a tax break, which would be the tax increment financing district. And I know Spring Valley has used them strategically in the past, where a business agrees to come to town and do a certain number of years. What is it like? I think they're like a 10-year blocks most of the time.
I think it's probably decided upon at the time of the agreement, but I've heard 7, 10,
Okay.
depending on where it is.
Which gives those, now as they become property owners in town with a business, it gives them a 10, let's say 7 to 10 year break on property taxes for being, willing to open a business in town that previously wasn't here. How is that handled, and how is that absorbed by the city when we see the city grant a TIF, tax increment financing? How is that spread out so that it's the city's not losing revenue in that. Boy, I even hate using the term revenue as it regards government. That would imply, no offense, present, company excluded, that implies that the city is providing some sort of service in exchange for the money they're getting, in a retail setting. So, um, how is a TIF for a commercial or industrial or even for a retail business when they're granted a TIF by the city? How is that spread out so that they're not losing money for that property?
Yeah. So with the EDA, a lot of that is handled.
Economic Development Authority, by the way, folks. That's what EDA stands for.
Apologies.
No, you're fine.
A lot of that is handled through them. They have money set aside to assist with that. Is that the entire amount? I couldn't tell you for sure. I haven't seen one since I've been mayor, or I don't believe it on council either. But I think for the most part, those are people who are having massive businesses come in, but then also maybe smaller ones that just need a little bit of help. And I don't think those ones are causing that much of a problem. I mean, if you're talking about a multi-million-dollar company coming in, that's going to be the issue. That wouldn't even be covered by what's offered with the EDA. So my preference is to push small town local. That's what I want to see. Again, I don't want to see an Amazon warehouse come into town. That'd not be my preference. I guess if it happens, it happens. That's not my preference. But I want to keep it small town local. I think that's what people love to see when they come to a community like this. They don't want to see a giant, $10,000 or 10,000 square foot building, just a metal building sitting there. That's not exciting. People want to go to a small town for the small town feel, the small town shop.
You mean people don't want to come to a small town and see a massive metal building when they can just stay at home in Rochester and see that, like right across the street?
Sure. There's a reason people come to Spring Valley, and it's not because there's a huge manufacturer on the edge of town.
Well, I mean, I think that's fair. There aren't a lot of people driving from the Rochester, and I've said this before.
Let me clarify though. Yes, there are people coming to those buildings, but it's because they have a job to do, whether they work for them or they're picking something up. And they may stop at the gas station to buy gas. But generally, the people coming into town are looking for somewhere to stop and eat, or maybe a fun shop to spend some time and money in. So that's what I mean when I say no one's coming to town for those giant buildings.
Well, no, I don't think anybody misunderstood that you were saying that people are coming down to Spring Valley and going, hey, where is all of your industrial setting stuff? That's what I really came here to see. I don't think nobody was misunderstood you with that. To me, and this has been something that I brought up after every single town hall, which, comes back to everybody's solution in every one of these situations. And Justin, you know this about me. Everybody's idea in every one of these situations is it's the government's job to fix all of our problems. And I think that comes from a massive amount of years of conditioning to think that that's what government's there for. Government is there to fix all of these problems. And this is not I'm not casting aspersions on our local city government by any stretch of the imagination. But if anybody, wants to go back and watch the last couple of city council meetings, what we have found is that people are finding that by no intentional act on the part of city council or the city of Spring Valley, anytime government gets involved in any decision making, there's always confusion. There's just always confusion, and somebody's feelings get hurt. and that's on the like the least intrusive side of government. There was a project that took place here in downtown Spring Valley that just the last 2 city council meetings, several actually, have revolved around confusion over just a simple connection to a sidewalk. And that is not me saying that the people who are confused are the problem. It's just government has caused this confusion, from the federal government to the state government to county government to the local government. There's just a massive amount of confusion. And a lot of times it's the local government, the municipal government, like the city of Spring Valley, stuck holding the bag and being the bad guy because higher levels of government have put these standards in place that the city's now responsible for enforcing. And everybody's going, what blue blazes is going on? Who's taking care of this? And so when I watch, and you know what I'm talking about, and so now you as a council and as a mayor are left holding the bag, trying to explain these things, when ultimately a lot of what's happened in that situation is people higher, and not higher up in the sense of superior to you, but at larger segments of government, have created standards that now you're responsible for overseeing, going, I didn't choose any of this. I did not make any of these decisions on the front end. And you're asking me to work in a framework of government that ties my hands. As local government, our hands are tied. And I think when I pay attention to the last few council meetings and the people that have been, I think there's been some justification in the confusion, which causes frustration and anger. And then you turn around and you go to a town hall and you hear people demand more government involvement. To me, what I hear is you're just asking for more confusion. You're asking for more people's feelings to be hurt. And to me, that is just a bad spot it's a bad spot for everybody in the city when that happens, because it causes divide and ultimately causes division, not just between government and the individuals, but the entire town ends up taking sides.
Yeah. I mean, beyond decisions I make higher up in the state, county, federal, whatever, when those decisions are made, it does affect us. And, the confusion is not only on, as you're describing, but as we're putting these new processes in place, there's confusion on who's doing what. And it generally ends up coming back to council that, we're the problem, which, maybe in some cases we are. But, for example, there was a couple of people who mentioned the permitting process, and that is still fairly new in Spring Valley. But this new process, painful, yes. Is
it painful, or is it just new and unfamiliar? Because I think there's a difference.
Well, both, because, there's, on the city side, we still don't know. People are asking me questions, and I'm like, I have no idea. I can point you in the direction of somebody that knows far more than me, but I have no idea. So even the people who know the most within the city are still like, I don't know. We're trying to figure this thing out. We're trying to work with this external company and make this happen, because at the end of the day, whether you agree with it or not, or you're annoyed with it or not, they're just trying to keep people from doing inappropriate things that they shouldn't be doing. And I know it's personal property, and that pains me to say that, because
you saw the wheel. TC's wheels are just straight. He's going to chew
stop.
me up.
Don't even say anything. I know. I get it. There's and this instance with the sidewalk, I know these guys are 100% capable of doing it, but this is a regulation I can't get around. So we have to do it this way. Right. And you can disagree with it. I'm good with that. You can disagree with me all day long, but it's not my decision. I'm being told that this is the way it's going to be now. So, there's it's a lot of problems.
Well, no, and I think that's a reality, and this is why I'm a very strong advocate for ultra limited government. There's nothing that, and once again, larger levels of government, from the county up to the state up to the feds, there's nothing that they implement that doesn't cause problems for everybody at a small level, at the lower level.
I would
There's
say,
nothing.
okay,
There's nothing they do that makes life better for people at the lower level. And by lower, once again, I don't mean inferior. I just mean at that smallest level, which is a municipal government.
so whether I agree with this new process or not, my personal views, it is what it is. Instead of fighting me on it, why don't you and I jump in a car together? We'll go up to the Capitol and we'll fight the people at the Capitol who are telling us we have to do this. I'd rather do that than fight with you individually.
100%.
So, it's unfortunate. I'm not excited. I appreciate what they're, the idea behind it, because there are a lot of people that don't know what they're doing, and they're like, well, I'll just build a house with the best knowledge I have with the YouTube videos I watched, and it's going to fall apart and crumble and someone's going to get hurt. So yeah, there's rules for a reason, but I'm not making them. I'm just the unfortunate person that has to enforce them.
Well, it was actually something that was said. I think it might have been the town hall, which is, we need to get more permitting going on. And when they said more permitting, they weren't referring to we need more people requesting permits, so we're showing growth in town. They were literally advocating for even more levels of the permit process at the municipal level. Like, everything should have a permit. And go ahead.
And the EDA director was there and discussed that with them further after the meeting. What we have in place now is probably the max we would ever do, hopefully ever need to do, because everything is taken care of within that process. So they may just not have known that we had this in place, or what the extent of it was. But I think it's plenty for the moment anyway.
I think plenty is a very generous way of saying it. I think that's a very, there's a lot that gets, and when I say permitted, I mean actually in the sense of what you're technically supposed to have a permit to do in town. There's a lot that just does not need to exist in that regard. And, I think that's a reality. I wanted to, and we're coming up on an hour, and so I just wanted to bring something up, just kind of as just a heads up, something at the last city council meeting really caught my attention, and I got a lot of people asking questions about it to me through private messages, which was the city, and I'm not asking for names. Please, I want everybody to understand I'm not asking for names, but the city voted. The city council voted on behalf of the people of the city, and that's something I want people to understand. When the city council votes on something, they're voting for it or against it on the behalf of the people, their constituents of the city of Spring Valley. There were two properties that received utility liens in the last city council meeting, and so this isn't specifically about town hall, but it's part of that meanderings process. In surveying the body language of a few of the people on the city council, it was I could tell it was uncomfortable for a couple of you that you were putting liens on people's property for unpaid utility bills, which, by the way, folks, look, I struggle to pay my bills. It's just that type of economy for me. And those who know my backstory know that I'm not anywhere near my income level that I was a few years ago before the loss of my career over this show. Literally over the show. So I am frequently finding myself in a position where I'm like, oh, what do I choose between this week? Like gas or food. So I understand, like, it can be tough to pay bills. That's part of adult life. You pay bills. what I had people asking me is what's the process when the city puts a lien on somebody's property, and what's kind of that 10,000 foot view down the road of what that looks like if that lien's not taken care of? And I said, ultimately, it's property seizure. And I'm not asking for a percentage or a number, but do you think that people recognize that as a reality, that when the city votes on the behalf of the people in the town to put a lien on a piece of property, that could mean down the road that person loses that property over that lien? Do you think people because that's what you guys are voting for, is to ultimately start the process where that person could lose that property? Do you think people know that?
I think that percentage is probably very, very low. Maybe 1 or 2%.
Understand that.
Understand it, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Justin. I just think it's a valid question, and people ask me.
Aren't you though?
No, I'm not. I'm not. We've talked about this before.
Yeah, we've had conversations, and I think it was after the first town hall we had this discussion.
There were people very excited about the idea of taking someone's property, because if you're not going to learn your lesson, you should pay a price.
And they want more enforcement so that they can have the community in a state of which they see fit, which is great, I guess. But this is the reality of when you push for something. This is the outcome. I don't like this. I don't like to have to do this. But this is generally what the people want. They want enforcement.
Right. It struck me because it's the first time that I've been in a meeting where that's come up.
Yeah.
And I immediately was receiving messages. What's that mean? A lien on the property. And I said, well, for one, somebody, they're way behind on their utility bills. We're talking, that's not we might turn your power off this week, type situation. That's your power's probably been off for months.
But yeah, it's not a month or two that you haven't paid. It's a long period of time.
Right.
But so it's interesting, because the food shelf was brought up at the town hall, and they were worried about their recycling. This is sort of off topic, but I'm going to bring it back around.
I will watch you pull this thread. I am ready.
Here we go. You ready for it? I'm gonna piece this together like a quilt, and everything is gonna come together. Everything I've ever said.
Everything. I'm here for it.
Okay. They're concerned because they were taking their recyclables to the county, which is on city property, recycling dumpsters.
Cardboard in particular.
Yeah, cardboard. At the end of the day, I don't care who dumps recycling there. I am not going to sit there and watch to see where, and ask, where do you live? Because you can't put an empty cardboard box in here because you live in town. I don't care. The whole idea is we don't want old couches and recliners and TVs, paint cans, things like that dumped and left there. So we have to restrict it to only the county people who can't get recycling, and they can bring it in. Again, I don't care if you live in town, as long as you're using it appropriately, it's not a big deal to me. All right. So the food shelf now, bringing this back around, I only brought that up because of the recycling issue they said. But now with government shutdowns, people who were on, say, SNAP or EBT or WIC are now going to be hurting because they don't have food. So where are they going to go? To our food shelf. And they service a lot of communities in the area. I guess that the individual said, multiple communities around, come here. that becomes a problem because they're going to run out of food very quickly if that went from a supplemental to their main source of food. So bringing it back around, it is so important for you and I and anyone watching to take care of your neighbors. If you know they're having an issue, help them out. You know, whether it's food or their light bill, their heating bill, water bill, offer to help them out. If you've got extra, lend a hand.
Yeah, absolutely. Which really kind of does go back to, what, like, even our challenge at the beginning of Mayoral Meanderings, the first meeting, which was, can we make it a summer without calling your neighbor in for mowing their yard?
Yeah.
Because that, once again, is part of that process that starts in, if you really want the city to do that, that person's going to get charged for it. And if they're not mowing their yard, there might be a reason, like they maybe don't have a mower and can't afford one.
Yeah.
Do you really think they're going to be able to pay the city to mow their yard for them? Which then ultimately ends up in, oh, you didn't pay the city to mow the yard, so you didn't pay this fine because you violated the ordinance. So now the city's going to charge you, and it's no less than $120 by the time you're done, no matter how big the yard is. It could be more. So now you just started the process over grass.
Yeah,
to lose your house.
Right. Those people may be choosing to put that fuel in their vehicle so they can make it to work instead of their lawnmower.
Right.
And so not only are they hurting for money, hurting to pay their bills, but now they're going to have another bill because you called City Hall to let them know that they weren't mowing their yard. And then if it gets to a point where we have to put a lien on their property and then they lose their house, but their life is going to be ruined over not mowing their yard enough.
Right.
Help your neighbor out.
You're right. You did a pretty good job of pulling that together. So I'm going to want to close this up and let you get out of here. There's one that everybody who's watching, I would strongly suggest that you go and look for, and maybe I'll try and remember to put it in the link here. I did a show the last couple of months with an individual. Well, actually, it was just in the last month. We did a show talking about the Flock camera, and Flock is the company. Flock has been reaching out to municipalities, small towns especially. We're seeing this in Winona County and other counties that are similar to Fillmore, where they're reaching out to the counties and they're reaching out to the municipalities, and they're wanting to put their Flock cams in towns, and they're offering kickbacks to the city. Like if you agree to put these cameras up to track traffic that can be used by law enforcement, where we'll kick into the budget a certain amount of money. And I'm not talking about anything that is technically nefarious and illegal, but starts to rise into the level of surveillance state. Has the city recently been approached by anybody from Flock or anything to do with Flock where they've said, hey, we're interested in coming in and helping you guys with, surveillance for crime fighting reasons? Or do you know anything? Has that happened yet? And would you let the public know if it does come up?
I have not been approached, and to my knowledge, no one else at City Hall has. And you're asking if I would be okay with that?
I'm asking, what would you let the people of the community know that you've been approached about that? Because a lot of times it sneaks in under the kind of under the radar, kind of comes in as an agreement, like, oh, hey, yeah, we're going to be putting these up, by the way, just so you know.
Yeah. I mean, myself, I want to be as transparent as at all possible. So I see no reason not to tell the community that. But furthermore, in what you're saying, we get incentives for, signing up for things like that. That concerns me. Solely because I don't feel like when you're offered something, a sort of a gift or money or something on the side because you go with something.
And I
That
want to be clear, it's not the council members and the mayor that are
no,
getting
no,
that.
no,
It's
no.
kind of
But
like
even just the general budget, yeah.
here's a
Um,
budget
it, it
injection for you to do this.
yeah, it sort of raises a red flag in my mind. Why would you give us money if we use your product?
Right. Yeah.
At the end of the day, okay, if you really want me to use your product and you're okay just giving away free money, just make the product cheaper, right? I mean, it's no
You
different.
Gee, Mr. Mayor, you might be missing the point of the system if you suggest that.
I understand the system. That's why I'm saying I have a red flag here.
I think it goes, into the same camp as what we're seeing with a lot of towns. If you're paying any attention to like St. Louis County and even now up by Zumbrota, there's a lot of arguments. Literally, people are losing they're losing like grip with their city councils and their county commissions over data centers, which I do not think people understand. They're going to small towns. They're approaching small towns like Spring Valley. And I'm not implying that Spring Valley's been approached, but you look at a place like Zumbrota, they're talking to small towns because of the influx. They're promising an influx of money into the city budgets if you zone this area for us, or even go out and annex this area and then zone it for us to put these data centers in, and then give us free electricity, free power, free water, because these data centers are major drains on the local energy infrastructure, water and electricity. And these things are getting done under the radar. And in one case, like the St. Louis County Commission, they all signed non-disclosure agreements to not talk about the data center at all, which blew my mind that they were able to get away with that. But Minnesota state statute lets them do that, to sign non-disclosure agreements with these, because it's business and not government meetings. It's just you're talking to these businesses, and now this NDA says you don't have to discuss it. I would, if they came in with the data center or flock and wanted to do that, I would be leading the charge. We, pitchforks and, torches, like hunting down Frankenstein's monster. You would have no problem. You would have to move the meeting to a bigger venue if that came up. So
I laugh because it's just so mind blowing. Yes, those data centers use a lot of electricity, but they need that water to cool all that equipment. And just what a huge mistake.
Could tell you're an IT guy.
I know enough. And I speak for myself as a resident, and I suppose as well as mayor. For myself, I would not want to see that in Spring Valley either. Just because of the drain.
Because it costs the rest of us. Everybody else's bills go up for that. People they're like, yeah, but they're going to employ people. Well, one, they're not. These are all AI operated centers. Two, they're major drains, and they're not. They're literally surveillance systems. These data centers predominantly gather information for surveillance reasons.
I mean, even set that aside. It could be Google. We just want to have a cloud storage in your community. You're still you're a drain.
Yeah.
The benefit does not outweigh, any.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
But it's something that I feel like needs to be talked about ahead of time instead of walking into a city council meeting. And hearing about it in a place like Spring Valley. And that's what's happened in Zumbrota. That's what happened up in St. Louis County. People all of a sudden just heard, oh, there's a data center going in. And everybody's like, how in the blue blazes? What in the French toast? Actually, how did this even happen? And now I got to pay their electricity bill? I got to pay their water bill? What? Why? Why do I have to? Do you know how much money I make? No. Please don't tell me you know how much money I make. That'd be just, But if the data center goes in and the flock cameras go up, you might be able to figure it out. So it was just one of those things that was on my mind, and since this is Mayoral Meanderings, I wanted to bring it up at the end. So we are going to be doing another town hall here in the last quarter. When I say we, it's just mean I show up. You do all the work, and I just show up and stream it. So
Yeah.
Which is no work for me. So, but you are planning on having another town hall. You just got to make it fit around holidays.
Yeah, it'll either be early to mid-December, or as soon as possible in January. It all depends on which council member I can get there with me, and
Who do
what
we have
they,
left?
Luann is the only one that has not been there with me. So I'm hoping
John,
I can get
and then Chris, and
Chris,
then
Brent.
Brent. Yeah, so we have to get Luann. So
yeah, I am hoping I can get her in there with me. I'd love to have all of them take part.
Well, yeah, I think they kind of owe it to the community. So they really do. And anything you'd like to say in closing, other than you disavow any knowledge and relationship with me? People are saying thank you for doing this, and they're out of towners.
Oh, yeah. It's like I said in the beginning, I'm just a guy. I want to do what's right for the community. I want the community to succeed. First and foremost, the people who live here, and then the surrounding individuals, farmers and things. I don't care if big tech wins. I don't care if Amazon gets another $1 billion. I care about my community, my neighbors, the people I have to live beside. And so doing what's right for them is utmost of importance to me. And that's when we did the before the election, we did I must be getting old. Down at the VFW.
Oh, the candidate forum.
Yeah, the forum. Thank you. I was asked what my priorities are. Can I list my priorities? I said I only have one. It's the people. And at the end of the day, that's all that really matters.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so strong on unity and working together and living together, because it's at the end of the day, that's all that really matters.
Yeah. I think that's in having gotten to know you, and the people who watch these on when we do them, know that that's not just lip service. You're not just giving lip service to that situation. So Justin, really appreciate your time. Please keep us posted on when we're going to do that next town hall, and so we can make sure that we get it set up for streaming, and so that everybody can take part if they can't make it to the meeting itself. And I'll do my close up, and it'll be very quick because I'm going to Wabasha later today.
Oh, great.
I'm going to go look at a really old hotel. Oh, no, thanks for making time for me around everything else you got going on. So you go, get out of here. You can sit in the green room and watch me. I'm going to say terrible things about you now. So
I'm going to watch.
Okay. Thank you so much, Justin. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Just so everybody knows, by the way, somebody pointed out that I've been really blurry throughout the stream, and I do not know why. Which you're just here to listen. You're not here to look. Nobody really wants to look at this anyway. So, I do want to thank Justin for doing this. Once again, the offer for any of the council members to come on, we will do a separate stream for any of the council members that want to come back. Even if you weren't at the town hall, if you want to come back and talk about the town hall, that's great. I do want to tell people, look, I am going to continue to push on the mayor and the council members that do take part in the town hall to do a lot more back and forth interaction. I think will build interest in the town hall. And then also, maybe begin to talk a little bit during, the council members' reports and the mayor's reports, commentaries that take place at the end of city council meetings to be able to talk about, hey, the last town hall, we had some people that brought up these questions. I do want to. I want to say this. Like, I really appreciate Justin's transparency. The move towards transparency by the city council to some degree. I would compel people, folks. You do not want a heavy-handed council. When it comes to government, you do not want a government that spends a lot of time enforcing its will on people. That is not, even if it's the city council, the city government is enforcing its will on your behalf on someone else. And I say this because it's a dangerous precedence to set. Because the next administration that comes along at the city level, your neighbor could weaponize the city against you over something that you've never thought was a problem. And having this heavy-handed approach to enforcement is a very, very dangerous road to go down. And it can be devastating for people. Literally devastating. And in a time where we're as a country, we are already divided. The last thing we need is more division at the municipal level, at a very local level. So I would encourage you, wherever you are, get out to your city council meetings, get out, get to know your neighbors, get to talking to them, find out what their needs are. Justin said it. We're at a time right now where there's a very good chance that people may find themselves in dire need of help because the government's not doing what you think they should be doing. If your life can be that drastically changed or drastically altered in any way or drastically impacted because the government's failing to do its job, your government is way too powerful. That's very, very important for people to understand. It's just absolutely foundationally, fundamentally important to the philosophical underpinnings of this republic, that when a government chooses to shut something down, people can't eat, can't buy medication. That's a problem at any level. And that doesn't just impact those people off in some area where you don't see them. That impacts your neighbors in small towns. The last thing we need is a more powerful, more controlling government at any level, but especially at the municipal level. And a lot of people answer, if you don't like city ordinances and you don't like city zoning and you don't like city codes, go live in the country. Folks, that doesn't change anything, because I have some people that I know right now, absolutely in the moment right now, who are dealing with a county being weaponized against them for their homestead because their neighbors are complaining and trying to get their homestead shut down. Living in the country does not protect you from government overreach. Voting Republican does not protect you from government overreach. Voting Democrat does not protect you from government overreach. What's going to protect you is your involvement in holding government accountable to not ruin people's lives. And everything that government does ultimately ends up ruining someone's life. To give one person one thing, somebody else has to lose something. If, Kennemore says, don't expect the government to bail you out from making bad life decisions. I agree 100%. The problem is that we expect government to protect us from having to make decisions. Or we expect government to make decisions for us to penalize our neighbor for doing something that we don't like. And there's no place fundamentally or foundationally where we can make better changes in how we live and self-govern than by holding local government accountable for what they do and how they do it. So, folks, I'm going to wrap this up here. Like I said, I'm going to go tour a really old hotel that's supposedly haunted. Supposedly. So, I'm going to be doing that this afternoon, or this early evening is actually what I'm going to be doing. So, it's a getaway for me. I haven't done one for a while. And I'm going to be releasing a breakdown video of something that took place right at the beginning of my No Kings walk and talk last week. And those of you who know me, I do not fall in the No Kings camp, but I also do not fall in the Trump is right at all costs camp. And so I'm going to be doing a breakdown of a conversation with somebody who had some just absolutely untrue things that they had to say. That's going to be coming out sometime this week. I'm shooting for Monday night for a TC and Friends Monday Night Musings. I'm going to be breaking down a back to blue at all costs conversation that I had with somebody who was back to blue at all costs. So I'll close with this. Pat Jager just said, no matter what you say, they always blame Trump for everything. That's true for some people. I'll say this. I blame government for everything. There's nothing that we couldn't do better than government does. There's absolutely nothing that we as private individuals couldn't do better than government, to include protect our own country. So until next time, my friends, fight for your freedom. It is yours. Fight for your liberty. It belongs to you. And today, more than ever, Sic Semper Tyrannis.
We are go for lift off in T-30. Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. Secondary guidance systems engaged. Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark. Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.